Dr. Gene Dorio on your hometown station AM 1220 KHTS. Barbara Cochran is off today, taking a little vacation, I think, during the winter months. But we do have Miles McNamara here from Comfort Keepers in Home Care. But I just wanted to mention at the Senior Center, Julia Child, we all know her. There's going to be a reenactment by Louise Willard. She's great about Julia Child. And you're going to find out all this interesting information about a person who was very talented in the kitchen, but also had great deal of talent during World War II. They used her because she developed apparently shark repellent. And for our Navy people, this was important for them to have this. And
who tested that?
Yeah, and you have to wonder who was the chummy who was a part of that. But that should be interesting. It's on Thursday, January the 6th. 26, 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. So Julia Childs will be over at the Senior Center chumming with shark repellent. And the other thing will be we have bingo on Saturday over at the Senior Center now, too, on the 28th of January. It's from 1 to 3 o'clock, $10 cash only. But apparently they have... all the seniors who have told me over there, they have a lot of door prizes and things like that. And, I guess they have pools and things like that. I don't do bingo myself yet, but, I think that this would be just a lot of fun for you to enjoy on a weekend and, January 28th.
So you could win a door?
Yeah, or a prize of some kind. Correct. Right. Maybe some chumming or shark repellent. We don't know.
That's right.
But we were talking, Miles, about the advance directive and making sure that people have their ducks lined up all in order and assuring that the communication that one has, there's an advocate out there to be able to say, hey, this is what this person has said, my loved one has said, and this is what we are going to do when the critical time comes when you can't answer for yourself.
Right. And just to touch on, you mentioned, you can download the forms from the internet and that type of thing. And I would really encourage you to use that as a last resort, because along with the Advanced Healthcare Directive and getting things set the way that you want, it would be having a trust, having an estate plan, what have you. As you know, my wife, Jane McNamara, is an elder law attorney here in town, and the complications that come, again, when you have this talk and you start thinking of all the different hypotheticals, they're endless. A lot of times, folks are in their second or third marriage, so there's a lot of, yours, mine, and ours, and from children to assets to property, and the last thing you want to happen is everything to jump into the probate courts. Again, just as your advanced healthcare directive for medical, so that things are happening exactly the way you want, upon your exit from this planet, you want to make sure that everything happens the way that you want. If there's your children and maybe a new spouse's children and then children you had together, and maybe there's a special needs child involved. So you cannot address those things with the cookie cutter forms from the internet. Exactly. So just be careful. That old cliche, you get what you pay for. But if you have assets, if you have a multi-layered family, whatever the case may be, I would advise seeing an elder law attorney, having it done correctly, talking about every single aspect of all your assets and your wishes and how you want things to happen upon your exit. Very, very important, because again, you don't want to lose a portion of your assets to the probate court fees as well, because nobody plans to fail, they just fail to plan. And
these are great points. I think there are some of our listeners who are saying, hey, I got that all settled. I have a will. It's ready to go. Anything happens, we're done because it's there. It's down on paper. I've signed it. But when you look at the date of 1996, 20 years ago, 21 years ago, you're going to go, it's not good enough. And nowadays, when people go into a hospital, the hospital is also, with their attorneys sometimes, looking at the paperwork to assure that that things are in the right place. So if you have something that hasn't been updated, then there could potentially be a problem. So just as we put batteries into our smoke detectors, daylight savings, maybe at least once a year on your birthday, it should be a reminder that you look at all your paperwork to make sure everything is done and that you've updated it, that it looks okay, and maybe even every 10 years, get a professional to take a good look at it also.
I would say actually every 3 to 5 years.
That'll be fine.
Because again, just like the batteries in our smoke alarm, things change. Maybe the players have changed. So the people that you've named in your legal documents are no longer with us or no longer available. And certainly the laws change on an annual basis. I mean, every single year there are tax changes. There are legalities that aren't the same 5, 10, 20 years down the road. So yeah, I mean, if you do have those documents in place, you really do need to have it updated every 3 to 5 years. And if there's been a change in your family hierarchy, I mean, maybe one of the agents that you had passed away themselves,
or somebody moved.
Exactly.
Somebody got divorced.
All right. So there's ever changing things in our lives. So update that thing just like you changed the batteries in your smoke alarm.
Exactly. And one of the things we talked about earlier was the technology and sometimes the barrier that our seniors will face when technology is right in front of them, and they're on occasion resistant to it. And, it's not that complicated, but we can't tell them that because they don't believe it. For some of them, though, to have the, push this button, push that button, and boom, things pop up, it works for them. And you brought a device in and it's called GrandPad.
Yeah.
And, you were talking about this, showing me this during the break, and I think it's fabulous. I think it's something that all our seniors should know about.
Well, I'll try to be as descriptive as possible for our listeners, but they can hopefully go to either the hometown station later or I think we rebroadcast this on SCV TV, right? So I'll show it to them. But basically what it is, Gene, we talked at the top of the show about isolation and depression in our seniors and how they start to withdraw from socialization because they lose confidence or, maybe hearing loss is becoming an issue or whatever the case may be. And maybe they've lost a spouse, of 50, 60 years. And so now there's depression, there's isolation. Well, Comfort Keepers has affiliated ourselves with a company called GrandPad, and it is, the technology on steroids, if you will, because this device was designed for and by seniors because they took into account, even with this comes a stylus because as our seniors age, the moisture in your fingers disappears. So when you touch that touch screen, it doesn't respond. Right. So, but
they're used to using a pen or a pencil
exactly.
as well.
So this GrandPad is all wireless. There's no on or off switch. There's a stand that comes with it that you just set the GrandPad in and it actually charges. Wow. And some people uses it as a stand. And then all you do is when you open the case, it turns on. So there's no buttons to push. There's no small things to deal with. And what they've done is they've basically taken all the highlights of connecting families and friends in what we call a closed network. The GrandPad comes with its own 4G data package that's included in the monthly fee, which I'll get to in a little bit. There's no Wi-Fi that's necessary. It's
no Wi-Fi.
No Wi-Fi. It has the 4G data, so it's a standalone.
How does it standalone?
It's sort of like your iPhone is it's provided by Verizon. So Verizon has one of the best coverage maps in our country. There is a way through the customer support team of GrandPad that if you're in some boondock mountain where Verizon may not work, there is a possibility of hooking it to Wi-Fi. Then they can walk you through that. But by and large, 99% of the time, you don't need Wi-Fi.
Because then you don't have to have any computer set up at the person's home,
correct,
the senior's home.
And the thing about what I said as far as the isolation and the depression, the most important thing that gleaned from this is it is a closed network. It's an app that family members download onto their smartphone. There's one admin that will put in the contacts and such. So with a one touch that grandma can video call anybody in her contact list and they can video call her.
Which means that they open this pad up, they find the phone on there, and they push the phone button. This is simple. Push the phone button, names come up, push the person's name, and boom.
It's calling them.
It's calling them, and it's also a video too.
Yeah, it's a video call. It's, for using Apple terms, it's a FaceTime call.
Yeah, Dick Tracy and all that stuff is here.
And then as far as, you can email as well. And what happens, our seniors have a difficult time with keyboards. So it's actually an audio email. So they just push the email button and they push the picture of the contact they want to email. It counts down for them. And all I have to do is say, hi, George, it's Grandma, just call, saying hi. Well, then that email is sent to George, and it's an MP3 file, so he can actually hear his grandma's voice, so she doesn't have to type the email.
Wow.
There's also, a button for every one of their contacts. What do seniors love to talk about?
Weather.
The weather. So when they push the weather button, it shows all of their contacts and what the weather is at that contact's location. Then most importantly, for themselves, there's a music app here. Music therapy is so huge, especially if there's some cognitive impairment or dementia or what have you. But just regularly, already programmed into the GrandPad is over 10,000 songs from their era. So right there, I just pushed the music button.
Hey,
Gene Kelly singing in the rain comes up.
That is great.
And for whatever reason,
which we'll be doing tomorrow, I think, or tonight.
That's right. So for whatever reason, there's not a particular song on there. They just contact the GrandPad support team, and they can download whatever song they want in it. And then also games to keep us mentally stimulated. There's one touch of a button.
And we're talking, just one touch.
One touch.
It's easy.
You've got solitaire. You got blackjack. You've got slots. You've got all these games to not only pass the time, crossword puzzles, but to also keep us mentally stimulated.
So when you have those slots, does any money fall out of the pad?
That's the next version. But I just want to stress that it's a closed network. It's a smartphone app that's controlled by a senior loved one's family member or friend. And so when they have their contacts in this, it's nobody can phish or scam, as they call it. And it's such an easy tool to connect families and friends. And as I mentioned to you, commercial, I was fortunate enough to be asked by the corporate office of Comfort Keepers. I did a guest spot on the Hallmark Channel's Home and Family Show to promote the GrandPad, and they were blown away because in that we had a clip of the video call of where the granddaughter was singing to Grandma before she went to bed.
Wow.
But right there, and
that is great.
She could see Grandma on the phone, and Grandma could see her and say good night. There's photos that are downloaded in real time. So if Grandma isn't with you at Disneyland and you take a photo and just download it in, boom, she can hit photos, and she's looking real time at whatever photos are downloaded by the family. She can also take silly pictures of herself or what have you, and then she can also send pictures to people in her closed network. It's an amazing tool, Gene, and that's the most prevalent issue we're having with our seniors.
Now, can they take this? Let's say they go to the library down the street from here, and can they take this to the library?
Oh, it's very mobile,
and sit there and they have the same abilities to do.
Yeah, they can plug in the stand if they want, but the iPad, it's not an iPad, forgive me. The GrandPad, is mobile, and it comes with a full charge. So yeah, they could take the GrandPad with them wherever they go, and utilize it wherever they are. But and again, it's a 4G network that follows them anywhere they go. On its own, it's $75 a month, but through the Comfort Keepers website, it's only $55 a month. And again, that's all inclusive. That's the data package, unlimited data, unlimited usage. They can. It comes insured, so if they drop it in the bathtub, it doesn't matter. We'll send them a new one. So for $55,
do they have to get a contract with Verizon though, or the family?
Nope, they just do it all through the GrandPad, and they would go to comfortkeepers.com/GrandPad. They would put in the Comfort Keeper affiliation code, which is, I'll give it to you. But I can't remember it. But they could obviously contact us, and I would be able to give it to them. That's kind of silly. I didn't write that down. But again, they would put in the Comfort Keeper affiliation code, and they would get it for $55 a month. And what's really cool about this, Gene, is we've integrated this into our core services. So when our caregivers, let's say, a lot of seniors are using this on their own, and they love it. But let's say they're a little bit unable to do so because of dementia or other cognitive issues. issues. Well, when our caregivers there and our comfort keepers in the house with them, we will initiate the video calls with family members. We will download photos or take photos and download
you help
to them.
Out with it.
So we help them out. We'll play the music from their era, and so because music therapy is huge, or we'll get them into a game of solitaire or crossword puzzle. So I mean, it's such an amazing tool that seniors are loving it.
Let me ask you this though: with our seniors who are visually impaired, can be enhanced anyway for visually impaired, and also those who have hearing problems? There's a hookup for earphones,
yes, you can put
or let's say you make a phone call and you're talking to somebody at the other end. Can it type out? Some of these phones will type out what's being said at the other end. It takes a little longer, but it works for those who are hearing impaired.
All the different accessibility features that is on a regular phone is available on the iPad, grandpad, excuse me. Smack me next time I say that, Gene. But again, as you can see, it's very big. It's very bright. All the buttons are large.
I mean, this is very simple.
Yeah, there is no braille, so depending on how much of visually impaired they are, I mean, they have to see a little bit. But but again, everything is so large, one touch. So I think somebody with some visual impairments could still use this very well. And then as far as sound wise, you can put your own earbuds on it and listen with earphones, but there's a volume control. It plays very loud. But just imagine right there, you're on the grandpad stand, and you just call your loved one, and boom, you're right there. It's like, as you said, a huge Dick Tracy type phone that you're video chatting with whoever's in your network. So it's an awesome tool, and feedback.
Can you get the NFL on it?
That I do not believe happens.
I'm looking for that little icon there. But pretty soon that'll be up, though, won't it?
Yeah, but what's cool is we do have a Comfort Keeper button, so if they need to get our office for whatever reason when we're not in the home, they just touch that Comfort Keepers button, and they're calling our office immediately. And the caregiver also has their own button that they can go in, and so that way they can log in and make, like I said,
instantaneous.
Yeah, and they can also...
It's like speed dialing, but you got it right in front of you.
Right. And so
easy.
The thing is that the caregivers are loving this as well, because while they're there, they're video calling all the family members and friends and stuff, and it's the connection tool that is going to hopefully eliminate some of the levels of the depression and the isolation that we're seeing in our seniors.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we need to talk about is how our seniors are doing these days, and because of the technology and now that big gap that is separating them out from the rest of society, depression sets in. Your health is deteriorating. You're moving slower. Your spouse is ill or has passed away. I mean, these are all things that lead to monumental problems that our seniors have to face. And, you always think, oh, put them on a drug. That'll help them out. Well, it's not that simple. A lot of this is situational. And, we don't want our seniors to be depressed. We want them to be helped. And I think part of having Comfort Keepers come in and be a part of their life makes a huge difference for them.
Right. Socialization, companionship. As we obviously provide a lot more hands-on personal care when needed, but just again the loneliness and you don't need a pill. I mean, sometimes I'm not a professional medical wise.
And I am, and you don't need a pill.
You don't need a pill, but if you re-engage them, you get them socially active again, you get them interacting with other friends, family, and seniors, the depression will start to reduce on its own, but don't keep them in a dark room by themselves and give them a pill and say you'll feel better. You might feel better for a little bit, but that's not the answer. So again, re-engagement, get at the socialization back up, get them excited about something like the grandpad where they can call their friends and actually see, because the video call is an option, but they can just do a regular call as well. So you don't need a pill to fix everything. Sometimes you just need socialization and participation from family and friends.
And the negative side of some of this, you mentioned the word suicide, and this is more prevalent in society than we have ever thought it is. And even when I do house calls, I find that there are some patients that need that kind of help to take care of them, with their care, and they're not able to do that.
Right.
And I don't know why and how we're going to stave that off, but I think that having Comfort Keepers come in, having grandpad makes a huge difference. It's such an advancement that we are now seeing with our, in our society. We are bringing that gap a little bit closer now, so that, that awareness that you have brought to our seniors has allowed them to pull themselves out of depression and away from that arena of suicide.
Right. And sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees. And I know a lot of times we only see our parents if we live in different cities, states, or what have you, talk to them on the phone or what have you, but we only see them one time a year, and that's usually during the holidays. So I ask our listeners is kind of reflect back on, if you did see mom and dad over the holidays for the first time in a year, hopefully you were observant. Hopefully you kind of looked around the house, how was their personal hygiene? How was the upkeep of their house? How was there food in the refrigerator? Because we can't address a problem until we realize there is a problem. Right. So, if first you have to do is recognize that there's a problem, and then you've got to reach out for help. And a lot of times the help is as much for the adult child than it is for the senior. But then there's so many resources out there that, again, if you re-engage your mom and dad or grandma and grandpa to get them more involved, but there may be some cognitive issues that you didn't realize was happening. There may be some physical issues that you didn't realize were happening. So think about that holiday visit. Think about things you may or may not have observed, and be proactive, not reactive.
When we come back, let's talk about that, because I do house calls as a physician. Miles, you also do house calls, and there's a lot to be extracted out of that observation that, we want to make sure that the caregivers also are helping their seniors with by seeing these things going on.
Absolutely.
So we're going to take a little break here on the Senior Hour. I'm Dr. Gene Dorio on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Dr. Gene Dorio on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. We're talking with Miles McNamara from Comfort Keepers in Home Care. And, we do the same thing. We do house calls, Miles. And, what we do and have recognized in the past is what you just alluded to at the end of the when we just had our break, was observation. When you walk into the house, you look around, you take a look in the refrigerator, you see that the floor is swept, you look at their pets, you make sure that things are in place, and then you look at your loved ones, assure that they're dressed okay, their hair is combed, and everything looks right. Those observations can stave off a terrible problem if you stay with that. And, you do it, I do it, and we know that, but a lot of people take it for granted when they walk into their loved one's home. Oh, everything is okay. Sometimes there's a clue there, isn't there?
Yeah, and the big difference between what you and I do and what we're asking our listeners to do is that when I or you have been called to come into the home, someone has recognized a problem, and they're not doing well. So we're already coming in now to assist with whatever problem they've recognized. Yep. Who we're talking to are the folks who haven't recognized that yet and haven't called you or I to come in and assist with whatever problem they may feel is occurring. So look around, and take that moment to see. If you haven't had the talk yet, like we talked about at the top of the show, and you've already got the advanced healthcare directives in place, and you've already got the estate plan and the trust in place, and you have all
the grand pad.
Now you have to look for the maturation of that plan. So now when you start to see the slippage and the time for help, reach out, get some help. With Comfort Keepers, we've proudly been providing home care in Santa Clarita for over 16 years. And so we're not nurses, but we have very, hands-on care that we provide. It can be helping with meals. It can be helping with personal hygiene and bathing and showering, getting them to their doctor's appointments. But again, we talked about also we re-engage them socially, the companionship and getting them more active. We have a process that we call interactive caregiving, which is we try to involve our clients in their own care, so that they stay active, so they stay stimulated, physically, emotionally, so rather than coming in and letting them sit on the couch and watching The Price is Right while we prepare the meal or do the laundry, we'll say, hey, help me, show me how you folded your towels, or show me your favorite recipe. And again, get them re-engaged, get them active in their own care.
But the other thing you do also with Comfort Keepers in Home Care is that you educate, and especially you educate the caregivers, the the children or whoever's there, the spouse, to assure that the patient, their loved one, is getting the right care. Education is key. Communicating that education is the most important thing that I know you folks do.
Right. And one thing I'll speak to the family caregiver out there who's working a full-time job and taking their kids to soccer practice and checking in on mom and dad is, take care of yourself. First of all, caregivers have to care for themselves. That's why they, when you're on an airplane, they say, put your own oxygen mask on first before you assist others, again, bring in the help that you need so that you can be the son or the daughter rather than the caregiver and spend the quality time with your parents or grandparents that you want to do. But you need to recognize the issues and reach out for help.
Boy, we've covered a lot today, I think, Miles, and I think that, there's so much more to cover in all of these aspects. But, from the greatest generation that is out there now, we can't ignore them. You mentioned in the very beginning they're invisible, and they can't be, because they're the basis of why we are here. All the technology that is out there has come from them. I mean, we talked about Julia Child and the shark repellent, but that was a little piece of what has gone on each step that our seniors have brought us up to this level. If not for them, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have the quality of life that we do now. So we have to honor them.
Standing on the shoulder of giants.
Exactly. And honor them in every way possible, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So if anybody is listening to this show and wants to get a hold of you, what's your phone number?
661-287-4200. 287-4200, or you can just go to comfortkeepers.com.
Or you can press the grandpad and
just push the big Comfort Keeper button on your grandpad, and that'll get us too.
Miles McNamara from Comfort Keepers in Home Care. Thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure.
Once again, we are sponsored by Comfort Keepers in Home Care, Advanced Audiology. Listen to us next week on the Senior Hour. Now go and enhance your quality of life.